The best part of Mass Effect is its storytelling, and it looks like the next Mass Effect is setting up to showcase an epic level of storytelling that Mass Effect fans can't even imagine. Every good story needs an enticing big bad, and the big bad in the next Mass Effect might be why Liara is on a mission to bring Shepard back from the dead. Again, let's dive into the potential plot threads for the next Mass Effect, starting with Mass Effect Andromeda. We know 3 things heading into the next Mass Effect. Ryder and crew couldn't establish contact with the Milky Way at the end of Andromeda, the setting for the next Mass Effect will most likely be the Milky Way, and somehow Andromeda is going to be involved in the next game. How in the name of Khaleesi bint Sinan al-Jalani can these 3 plot threads coexist? I think the answer lies in Meridian. At the end of Andromeda, humanity colonized Meridian, the holosphere world that the Jardan manufactured. This world supposedly contains all the work of the Jardan, a highly technologically advanced group. In the game, we discover that a weapon was detonated on one of the Jardan space stations, Key Tasira, by a mysterious group known as the Opposition. This caused an energy phenomenon called the Scourge to be unleashed throughout the Helios cluster. The Scourge shows properties of messing with space-time, and if it was originally on a Jardan space station, then I'm going to speculate that the Jardan might have been looking into altering space-time. As a result, some of their space-time research might be on Meridian, the world that Ryder and crew just so happen to inhabit. If Ryder and crew find this space-time research, then the Jardan's technology will allow them to establish contact with the Milky Way and return there, thus allowing for Andromeda's plot threads to continue in the next Mass Effect, maybe even in the year 2190. In a previous video, I discussed the potential of wormholes being the way that Ryder and crew return, and I'm thinking now that space-time REM tech will be involved too. So, the key to these 3 plot threads continuing will most likely involve the Jardan, and more specifically, the research they left on Meridian. I also think that the Jardan will connect to the reason that Liara is resurrecting Shepard, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First, let's dive into the potential Milky Way plot threads. Last we left off in the Milky Way, the Crucible unleashed dark energy across the entire galaxy, removing the threat of the Reapers in your color of choice. What we don't know, and what we'll definitely figure out in the next Mass Effect, is how the Milky Way recovered after the devastating Reaper War. But the key here is that I think the very means that saved the galaxy might have also inadvertently doomed it as well. How exactly? Dark energy. Drew Karpyshyn, lead writer for Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2, previously discussed how dark energy might have a ripple effect on the space-time continuum. I have a strong feeling that this particular drop thread might be coming back in a big way. In the teaser trailer for the next Mass Effect, after showing a broken mass relay, a voice says anomaly readings all across space.
Anomaly readings all across space. Anomaly readings all across space.
I think that this sequence of events indicates that some kind of anomalies are happening across the Milky Way, post-Reaper War, and the dark energy wave from the Crucible might be the cause of the anomalies that are suddenly appearing. I've speculated in previous videos that these anomalies could be wormholes that lead to alternate universes. If it feels like I just massively threw you a curveball at the mention of alternate universes, don't worry, it's me, not you. So in Mass Effect 3, we saved the galaxy using the Crucible, but in the next Mass Effect, we might have screwed over the galaxy using the Crucible. Don't you just hate it when you use a massive superweapon that you know absolutely nothing about, and then it causes anomaly readings all across space? Let's pivot for a second, because I have 2 questions that have been driving me insane. And don't worry, this does connect back to everything that I've discussed so far. The first question running around in my head? What does Liara picking up this N7 insignia mean? I've speculated plenty of times before that I think this means that Shepard is going to return in the next game, but with a twist. With the anomalies/wormholes that might have opened up, I think the trailer is showcasing the recovery of a Shepard that died on Alkera in an alternate universe. It would take a very long time for me to explain my reasoning here, so if you are curious, go check out the Mass Effect 5 Theories playlist, link in the description. The second question driving me nuts? Why does Liara need to recover Shepard? Shepard died saving the galaxy from the biggest threat known to exist, the Reapers. If Shepard needs to be brought back to life again, what galaxy-wide ending event is occurring this time? It's time to try and tie all these plot threads together. When you're developing a really strong story, you need 3 things. The first is a really intriguing situation that is causing conflict of some kind. Anomalies all across space that's causing who knows what can probably check that box. The second is a strong protagonist that is the only one capable of dealing with the main situation at hand. And from the trailer, I'm going to speculate that the protagonist will be Shepard, which we know from the trilogy definitely checks that box. The third is the villains/villains that are getting in the way of the protagonist. Who do I think checks that box? The Jardan. In Mass Effect Andromeda, we know one crucial thing about the Jardan. They are not originally from the Helios cluster. The last we heard from them, they had to leave the cluster because of the devastating scourge, which I think is their own space-time altering creation. Where do you go when you're hurting and need to recoup? You go home. And with that reasoning, I'm going to speculate that the Jardan are originally from the Milky Way, and will return to the Milky Way in the next game, as the villains in the next Mass Effect. And not only that, I think that the Benefactor is going to be the main villain, facing off against Shepard. As to my reasoning on why the Jardan will be the villains, and why I think Shepard will be the protagonist, I'm going to have to leave this on a bit of a cliffhanger until my next video. And if you're an Andromeda fan, don't worry, because Ryder will be making an appearance as well. With that being said though, here's my initial take on where the next Mass Effect's plot could go. I think one of the plot points of the next game will be to stop the anomalies caused by the dark energy wave unleashed by the Crucible. I'll also make a leap that we, as Shepard, will need to close off the anomalies/wormholes that lead to other universes, but not before Liara grabs Shepard first. I have a feeling the Andromeda crew will be heavily involved as well, especially if the Jardan are the villains. Apologies for ending on a bit of a cliffhanger with this one, but my next video will be dropping fairly soon. If you want to try and figure out my reasoning on the villains before then, I discussed a mind-blowing theory about the Jardan and potential identity of the Benefactor right over here. See you there.